As you're all aware, I'm James. I'm Vice President of Finance and Commercial Services. One thing I'll say before I start, I think it's probably the role that everyone has a say in terms of like everyone's got a say in entertainment, everyone's got a say that our shop's too expensive, that our bar's too expensive. So you've got to take that into consideration when I come into the role. There are a lot of parameters that we have to abide by, and that's where you have to start the year off. So it's like Max basically doing his strat plan without talking about elections. I kind of have to go back to Freshers to also start my strat plan. So Freshers, I set out, I wanted to sell the most platinum, I wanted to have the most logistically sound Freshers, I wanted to have the most activities on. We achieved all them by a mile, and it was really down to a lot of work that we brought the union together and the organisation together, which is something I'm going to get onto in a bit. So I'm going to do my year as a plan around a monopoly board. So this side is the past and what I'm currently doing, moving on to currently into the future. This is what I attempt to achieve my predecessor to take on, and then this is the bottom. The bottom line is a lot of the higher end stuff in terms of the Board of Trustees, in terms of what we do as a union moving forward over the next 5 to 10 years. So Freshers, like I've already said, I've already got to my checkpoint after Freshers. So HSF and DSF, they're the two bodies of students that, particularly HSF, have a big power across the university. And I want to make sure that the university, particularly the wardens, know about the hall chairs and know about how much power they have within their halls. We can treat halls as mini students' unions, and I think that's really, really important that the university are aware of these people and how we can use these people to channel what the students want to do within these areas. From this, for the autonomy recognition I'm giving them, I think it's really important we give better training. I don't think handover periods are dealt with very well. I think we need to appraise more. I think we need to have constant more evaluation, particularly with hall committees. I think you come on, you've got ideas as hall chairs or associate secretary or whatever role you're in, but you don't get constantly evaluated what you're doing throughout the year. So I think that's something I'm going to try and improve this year. And it's a pathway for students to move up within and improve their employability as well. So I think it's something you need to recognise what you're doing in their role and making sure they are actually taking more from what they're actually doing. Moving on to the commercial services, okay? Like I said, everyone's got a say in entertainments, everyone's got a say in everything we do here on the commercial side. I want to make sure we're more student-led, okay? So now we've set up this commercial services committee. This is going to be part of basically the subgroup from the Finance and Management Subcommittee from the Board of Trustees, with a few extras as well, with AP and Andy Meakin, who's our Director of Commercial Services on that group. We're going to be talking more about the ins and outs of us commercially, how we're going to get more students involved, what do students want that we're doing commercially, what can we change. I think at the moment, my role really, as I do oversee venue, I don't have that much input in it. I think we need to have more student input going back into student voice with that. Moving on, Sound Clash this year. This is no offence to last year, but I think the union took too much control of Sound Clash. I think it's an event that the students need to lead, and it's really, really important we keep it that different event. Yes, LSU hold the final, but before that, we are there to facilitate ideas that students have, and we want to make it more student-led. Talk about the Commercial Services Committee, that's going to be really important. That will feed back into the Board of Trustees, that will feed back into my remit and then report to the exec, and it will give me a committee of people to voice to the exec as well. Moving on, obviously through our data-driven marketing system, you get emails tailored to you, whether you are a party person, whether you're an academic individualist. I want to do greater data-driven marketing, so I want to look at halls, I want to look at societies, I want to look at sports clubs. We know, for example, that in this union, in Fusion, Cayley, Telford, Faraday, Bilmo have their corner in that part of the union. Harry French and Towers have their corners in room 1. What do I see from the data? What do we see from the data? Those guys are more prevalent on certain different nights. So Tuesday, for example, is full of people from Faraday, Telford and Cayley. Wednesdays, Harry French and Towers are going to these events. We want to target these people more. Use that idea. Get more for Tuesdays. Definitely get more drinks offers that are more stupid. Let's get more people down there. It's actually that way. It is a Super Tuesday, so we need to make sure. For example, the fourth VKs for a fiver, that went down a treat. We got 400 people more than we did do for the last 2 weeks that it's Tuesday, and we were up on the bars on the take as well. I want greater transparency as well. I want to be able to email Michael on a Wednesday morning after he's been out on a Tuesday and say what his £11.70 was spent on in the union. That is very, very difficult, and it's very, very, we don't want to lie about what we're doing with that. However, I think it's something we can do. We can say, your money was spent on this in RAG, your money was spent on this in society, facilitating these students to go and do these things. I think we forget as well that our commercial services pays back into what we do provide as an organisation in terms of what we provide with RAG, what we provide with sport. A lot of it comes from our commercial services, so I think that has got to be relayed more, and students got to understand that more. One thing I've got an idea as well in semester 2. This is an idea that I kind of nicked from Charlie Staunton, so thank you very much, Charlie. It's Loughborough IMA, which is IMS sport, but we make it into intramural arts. So on Monday, we look at Happy Mondays. We look at Thursdays that are nights that are on one of our biggest nights here, and we're basically going to make it an inter-hall competition. I think hall spirit kind of dies down in semester 2. I think we can reinvigorate that and start Loughborough IMA. Each hall would enter an act, whether that's stand-up comedy, whether that's a band, whether that's a singer-songwriter, anything what it could be, plays, anything, and you make it an event that goes towards Hall of the Year, and it'll get a different set of students down here. Stuff like the Hoosiers that we had on, even though it wasn't particularly well marketed, I don't think we got the people we wanted down there. It was a great event that got different people down to the venue that we don't usually see. Moving on, I think one thing that I want to achieve over the year, I think something that wasn't really clarified to me, I think Max will probably go on to this a little bit as well in his role. Our roles aren't entirely clarified in what we do, in what is our position really in terms of the union. Obviously all the other guys on the exec have a section to look after. We don't really have a section as such. Yeah, he's loosely connected with marketing and communication. I'm connected with finance and commercial services. However, we oversee what the union does internally. I think it's really, really important that the people going into our roles understand the structures within the union, understand the internal structure in the union, and how the departments work with each other. So I think more cohesiveness between departments such as the IT department, between the venue and marketing department, that has to happen. And I think that's what mine and Max's role really is this year, to make sure that we're driving that and we're making sure the organisation is working better together. We saw that with Platinum at the start of the year. We saw the record figures that we got from it, and we know when we do that, we create better results. Moving on, I think the discipline policy was really well worked on last year by Dan. Now I want to create a database. I want to make sure that the disciplines are streamlined to me, so I'm not just spending 4 hours on a Wednesday afternoon doing disciplines and telling people off. I want to make sure I'm taking away the results, building a database, building what we're actually learning from in this venue, what are the trends of people, what are they doing wrong, and how can we build campaigns around that. And then also my role as well is overseas Enterprise Hub as a sabbatical role. What we're looking to do next year potentially is change the composition of how the DOs work. We're looking to potentially have an enterprise and employability DO next year. I think that will be something I really want to push this year. I think it's really, really important that Enterprise get the advocacy that they need. I think they're doing some fantastic things down there, but people just don't know what they are doing. They don't have the social media reach that a DO or an execman would get. So I think I want to really push that as well. Moving on to the final few things, I want to have a complete, in my role, and I want to be able to pass this on to the next person, have a complete understanding of the union finances. It's really, really important that when Rosie comes up to me for action and says, I've got this in my budget, where do I spend this, this and this? I want to be able to just tell them straight up. I think working with AP, working with Gary, who's our head of finance, I think understanding these things, making sure we know what we're doing into the future. Finally, so moving on to my final 2 points, the biggest 3 points of them all really, is long-term finance. I think that even though me and AP might disagree about this, I think we have a year-on-year grant from the university that is just year-on-year. Now that isn't sustainable. That's not a sustainable business model to look and to build into the future when we're potentially looking to building our new building. If we're going to get a new building here, it's going to cost between 10 and 20 million pounds. If we're getting a 1.5 million grant, or that's a rough figure, that's not what I'm quoting, but if we get that amount of money, how do we know in 5 years' time what we're going to get, and how do we look at creating a sustainable plan to make sure we're going to have the building in place and have the financials behind it? I want to make sure in the budgeting procedure that we're going through at the moment that each department is getting exactly what they need. We're not missing out on student-facing services. Obviously, there's this VAT thing that's above our shoulders as well at the moment. That's still up in the air. We don't know what's going to go on with that. I want to make sure that's transparent. The students understand why we've got this VAT case against us, what we're doing about it, and how we're going to move forward from it. And finally, the building. Exploring the different options we have with the building, whether we build our own halls of residence to invest into that. So that will basically fund our building moving forward as an extra source of revenue. Just to give you an example, 4 years ago, 54% of our profits were made from alcohol, or our money was made from alcohol, and now it's 32%. It's a huge loss. It's a changing market. Students are changing. We can't just rely on our nighttime economy to pull this place up. So we need to look at other sources, or do we go across the university and ask for a serious amount of money? Is that where we question our independence? But I think it's something that I want to push with Max and with Jess and with AP, and we want to really drive these things forward. Thank you.